Okay, Dan, Eric, Steve, Tom, Sean, Martin, everybody else, I'll get to your calls before the hour ends. Charlotte can talk about a lot of issues, and we'll go to them quickly towards the end. But Charlotte Iserby doesn't like to brag about herself, but she was the head of policy, Department of Education, under Reagan, the #2 position. Her father and grandfather were Skull and Bones. Her father, Bohemian Grove. She is the lady, decades ago, that blew Skull and Bones wide open. The mainstream media denied that anything was even going on up until she leaked Sutton the info. Now, that was not known for a long time who did it because her father was still alive. I want this history, now that it can be talked about, to be discussed first. And she'll tell you, well, read Sutton's book or read Chris Milligan's excellent Fleshing Out Skull and Bones that's more recent, to see their deep research and overall, bringing the info together. But she was a Skull and Bones East Coast family. And, she's got many documents never before seen. My guys were able to see them when they were up there 3 weeks ago. And so she's agreed, and we appreciate it, because I sent them up there about the Department of Education brainwashing program. And then I knew she had broken this info. We've interviewed her separately, briefly on this issue as part of other interviews. I wanted to get her on today. And, she was telling me during the break, getting her on, well, Alex, the stuff's out there. It's on my website. I know, but not the specifics of the family and how it works. We see films like The Good Shepherd, directed by Robert De Niro with Matt Damon, that the media hailed as very accurate. I don't know if it's accurate from what she's seen. I mean, it's got the guy dressed up as the devil, as a king, and the rituals, and that's reportedly accurate. The New York Observer got some of the devils equal death and all that stuff on video on the outside courtyard of the tomb. But I specifically, wanted her to just get into some of the other areas, like in that film, and in also some of the reports that there's Skull and Bones families, and that sometimes the wives get inducted in as well. So I wanted to talk to Charlotte about that, because this is important historical information. Skull and Bones is one of the most powerful ruling class groups where a whole bunch of presidents, CIA directors, secretaries of state, you name it, come from. And so Charlotte joins us for the next 40 minutes or so. We'll talk about this, and then we'll get to those calls, as I promised to. But Charlotte, the author of Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, which is now gone out of print, now joins us here today, but you can still read the free digital copy at her website. We'll tell you how to do that as well. She's a great humanitarian. Charlotte, great to have you here with us today.
Good afternoon, Alex, and I hope I can live up to your expectations.
Oh, I'm sure you can. Believe me, I've seen the footage the guys shot of the documents. Now, Charlotte, let's go back to the beginning and start with Anthony Sutton. Then we'll get into your family, and you're gracious to talk about this. I know some of it's painful, to go back and remember your father's death when you were caring for him and other things. But let's discuss how you got it to Sutton, why it couldn't be known at the time, what his book on Skull and Bones and the secret establishment covered.
Well, he was a remarkable person, and I think that for those who haven't, heard, Sutton's background was very, very establishment up until the time that he stumbled over the establishment, right? And, he was educated at the Universities of London, Göttingen, and California. He's English. And while a research fellow at the prestigious Hoover Institute, he produced the monumental 3-volume series, Western Technology and Soviet Economic Development. And other books that he wrote were The Best Enemy Money Can Buy, Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, Wall Street and Hitler, and others. And so what happened was, I am the daughter and granddaughter of members of Skull and Bones. We can go into a little bit later on that. But I think that I had been in touch with Sutton in the early 80s in regard to United States policy towards the Soviet Union. It's always bothered me that I couldn't, honestly, if you really want me to say something that's going to get you famous for the rest of time, Alex, for having a #1 kook on your program, I have been coming to this conclusion ever since I came back from overseas and worked in Soviet affairs, too, in the Department of State. I don't think there ever was a Cold War. I mean, I don't think there ever was a problem between the United States and the Soviet Union. They can call it Cold War because it wasn't hot.
But that's not kooky. That's actually come out in documents.
Well, yeah, I know, and I've always felt that way, but I think...
no, but they love McCarthy. I mean, the Russians have now released the documents. New York Times headline, McCarthy was right. It turned out but they liked him, just interrupting, talking about communist, as long as it was file clerks, so they could have a police state in the name of countering the Soviets and build us into the authoritarian system. But as soon as he said the army is running the communist, boom, it was over for him because he'd found out the truth. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think, though, that Sutton, with all of his extraordinary research on, or giving aid to the Soviet Union, I mean, we were making it possible for the development of their country technologically and militarily.
Gave them the nukes and then executed the Rosenbergs. Go ahead.
But then, also, I ran into the marvelous book, which is really my favorite book. My favorite book, Charlotte's favorite book, she has thousands of books, is by George Racy Jordan from Major Jordan's Diaries. Now, I would say that and Sutton and a few of the other books that your guys took pictures of. That book, too, that really was definitely important in bringing me to the conclusion that there never was a Cold War. They had to bring the phony wall had to come down and all that, and it did, and all of this had been, in secret papers, predicted that all of this was necessary for the merger to take place.
Yeah, the Carnegies wrote about that in the 20s.
Absolutely. So anyway, so Sutton must have called me, and I guess I mentioned to him, because I was staying out at the house, I was taking care of my father in New Jersey, and I think I probably said, have you checked on the order at Yale? And he said, well, yeah, he had. And he was very, very interested. He said, what do you know? And I told him that, my father and grandfather were members of the order. I have to point out that my father really had absolutely less than zero to do with the policies of the order, which have brought us to where we are right now. My dad was a great constitutionalist, wonderful man. I can't think of, I could go on forever talking about him, and he was beloved by everybody, from the garbage man to the top people in the corporations and in Europe.
And that's why it was his daughter that blew him wide open.
And well, he did not know that. But
no, I know, but it just shows the bloodline. Go ahead.
Yeah, but what he did do. I'll mention this first because I was at that point working with Phyllis Schlafly putting together the book Child Abuse in the Classroom. That's quite a marvelous book, folks, and it is at Samuel's website. It's a free, you can read it. It's all the documentation on the hearings we had in the early 80s, which I was instrumental in on what they're doing to our children, the destruction of our children's morals and values. So anyway, Phyllis and I were talking about putting that book of hers together in order for her to sell it at the Republican convention coming up in, was 84, I guess. And my father was dying of cancer, and we put a little room off of the kitchen for him at home so that, he didn't have to go up and downstairs, and we'd be close to him. And so he had to listen to all this, mouth out of his daughter, Charlotte, and talking on the phone with people like Phyllis. And so he heard all about globalism. I was talking about globalism and all these dreadful programs in the schools. And so about a week before he died, he looked at me and he said, Char, if I had longer, I'd help you. So really something remarkable happened there. I think he was, Phyllis and I or myself or whatever, we brainwashed. We deprogrammed him. But anyway, it was during that period that Sutton found out about, the books arrived in the mail one day, 3 of them, the membership list. And so I was taking care of my father's mail. And I opened them up, and I looked at them, and let me point out at this point, I knew nothing about Skull and Bones. I knew nothing about what they did. All I knew was we had a great big grandfather clock that my father had always said, don't ever let it wind down. Well, my son Sam says he knows why that is, because evidently there's some sort of mysterious reason for that, because I guess they're never meant to wind down, huh? So Dad always was fussy about that. Do not let that clock wind down. You've got to keep it going. So anyway, that's all I knew, and a few other things I can tell you about, too. But I wasn't... so when I saw the list, I thought, well, I've never seen these before. So there were 3 books that with the present membership, the past membership is something at all members from the beginning, all mixed up, huh? And so I took them into my father, and he said, oh, gee, he said, I've never seen that before. He said, they never put the list in books. Okay, well, so I let him look at it, and then I took them back, and then I talked to Tony Sutton, and he said, Charlotte, would you lend them to me? And I said, well, I don't know, why not, as long as you get them back to me as soon as you can. I said, I feel a little bit like a traitor, but I feel it's important for you to have them. So anyway, I sent them to him, and he called me a couple of days later, and he said, this is the most remarkable experience I've ever had. He said, I've been trying to figure this thing out for a long time, and you're not kidding, he had with all his volumes that he was doing for Hoover. And he said, I just have never really been able to, pinpoint where does this support for working with the Soviets and bringing this country down come from.
Stay there. We're going to be right back. Charlotte Iserby. They must destroy the Republic to build their system. This is Alex Jones with 5 good reasons you should consider buying a solar power generator. Number 1, new climate legislation could easily double or triple your electric bill. Number 2, our new energy czar wants to control how much power your electric company allows you to have. It's true. Total government control of electricity in the name of smart grid technology is coming. Number 3, in some areas of the country, the power grid is dangerously overloaded. And now new socialist legislation is only compounding the problem. Number 4, dangerous weather is always a threat to local grids. Every year, thousands of families lose their power from weather-related outages. Number 5, a solar power generator provides powerful backup insurance and peace of mind. Folks, I really believe in the solar power generators offered by Solutions from Science, one of my oldest sponsors. You can get more information at www.mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com or call 1-877-327-0365.
Making the right decisions is a challenge to investors. Are we going to see economic growth, slide into a recession, or at worst, depression? Hi, Ted Anderson from Midas Resources. We all know when a company acts irresponsibly, divesting ourselves in a move towards safety is prudent. When the market becomes volatile, U.S. Treasuries are a safe haven. But what do you do when the U.S. government overextends itself and spends beyond its means? Many investors are turning toward gold as a common-sense alternative to traditional paper investments. Midas Resources has put together a powerful book titled 10 Reasons to Own Gold, discussing costs, benefits, risks, featuring full-color illustrations, weights, and measures. The book is free and can be yours by calling 800-686-2237. Paper investments are dwarfed by gold's 6,000-year history. Discover how gold may be right for you and your IRA by calling 800-686-2237. Whether buying or it's time for you to sell, the book is free. Call 800-686-2237.
They helped to create a new world order.
We are part of a new world order.
A new world order based upon collective action.
Invisible Empire is a damning indictment of the globalists through their own words and documents.
The New World Order really is a tool for addressing a new world of possibilities.
It means all the world under their control.
The United Nations would take over America. The Trilateral Commission would control the world.
Invisible Empire chronicles how men of power and influence have worked in stealth for centuries to establish an oppressive world government.
I believe, first of all, that we now need nothing short of a world constitution for the global financial system.
Global governance with the establishment of the G20.
So it's going to